This is CTV News with Kevin Chirac.
One day longer! One day longer! One day longer!
One day stronger! Tonight, thousands of public workers descend on the Capitol as the BC General Employees Union strike enters its 6th week. Also ahead.
There is no excuse for violating someone's trust, privacy, and dignity.
Job action and a crackdown on sexual violence dominate talks in Victoria as fall session kicks off at BC's Legislature. Plus, Adam finds out what happened after a CTV News team preparing to broadcast live spotted a man preparing to propose to his girlfriend. Later on the Sawatsky sign-off. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. A bird's-eye view over BC's Legislature showed a lawn transformed by 10,000 union workers and their allies. They marched to the Parliament building with a message in one of the province's longest-running strikes, and others are taking notes. CTV's Brendan Strain explains.
It was a massive show of force. More than 10,000 BCGEU members, including ally unions, marching through downtown Victoria, shutting down traffic to one of the Corps' major arteries as they marched to the front lawn of the BC Legislature, coinciding with the start of the fall legislative session. They came with a strong message directed towards the government.
Get back to the table with a fair deal for working people in this province.
A week ago, the BCGEU resumed talks with the province. Hopeful a deal could be reached, although Paul Finch, the union's president, says the offer was out of touch with the rising cost of living.
Told us that the maximum they were willing to go was a 0.5% increase.
Those talks have now once again stalled, taking the strike into its 6th week.
What I'm really focused on is finding an agreement that's fair to these government workers and is also fair to British Columbians.
The union is asking for an 8% increase over the next 2 years. The province says it is countered with a 5% bump over the same time period.
We've brought forward an offer that we feel is reasonable, and we would like to get back to negotiations.
Today, BC's Minister of Finance not budging.
This fight is about fairness. This fight is about dignity. But more than anything, this fight is about solidarity.
Other unions are closely watching what happens with this labor unrest. Many came out today in support of the BCGEU.
This bargaining association is made up of steelworkers, CUPE, HEU, nurses, UFCW.
With the massive show of support shown today, the president of the BCGEU says the union is prepared to escalate its strike action in order to bring the province back to the bargaining table.
We're just going to keep ramping up from here. You've seen the resolve of everyone that came out today. Walk a picket line with our members, with the PE members. You'll see how strong their resolve is. We're going to keep out here until we get a fair deal.
Brendan Strain, CTV News, Victoria.
The fall sitting of the BC Legislature has begun with a new Green Party leader and a new independent since high-profile MLA Eleanor Sturko was kicked out of the BC Conservative caucus over the summer. The NDP government says it plans to introduce more than a dozen bills this sessions, with most of them being tabled in the first week. The House leader says the agenda is focused on standing up for British Columbians as the province faces challenges to the economy in the face of U.S. tariffs.
I think it's an opportunity for the parties to try to reassert themselves with the public. The opposition has to be seen as a government in waiting, really discussing some of the things that are important, particularly on the issues that people care about. You know, we still see housing as the #1 issue facing the province, then the economy and jobs, then healthcare. Those are the things that people care about.
To gain traction with island voters, the pollsters figures the Conservatives could go after the NDP's handling of health care. This morning, the opposition opened with concerns for hardships facing small businesses. The Conservatives also took aim at the province over a forestry sector in crisis and public sector management. BC's Attorney General and the minister responsible for post-secondary education are pitching plans to crack down on sexual violence. People who've had their intimate images shared without their consent could become eligible for higher compensation. It's one of the amendments being proposed to the Intimate Images Protection Act. If passed, the civil tribunal seeing cases could increase fines by 14 times the current limit, up to $75,000 in penalties.
There is no excuse for violating someone's trust, privacy, and dignity. If you engage in this type of terrible behavior, you will be punished. To those who have had their intimate images shared without their consent or are facing threats, you have done nothing wrong. No matter who you are, what your age is, or why you created those images, you have the right to privacy and safety.
The NDP government is also introducing legislation and an action plan to prevent and respond to sexual violence on post-secondary campuses. The minister says it closes gaps in the current legislation and ensures trauma-informed work. The wheels on the transit buses were rolling and the rubber was hitting the road in the Cowichan Valley today. It's something that hasn't been seen since February. As CTV's Andy Garland reports, transit users are relieved. One of the longest strikes ever seen in the region is finally over.
It's a moment April Murphy has been waiting for almost 8 months to the day.
Last time I took a bus was in February 8th, and I've been holding a sign since February 14th, so it's been daunting.
No longer needing a sign to get to work in Duncan from Lake Cowichan, April steps onto the bus for the first time since the longest transit strike in BC's history started back in February.
It was so nice to see everybody and to talk to the bus drivers and just to see everybody on the commute again. It's just such a relief.
It was the first full day of transit operations in the Cowichan Valley after the union and employer Transdev agreed a couple weeks ago to provincial mediators' recommendations. Bus drivers say they're happy to get behind the wheel.
There's a lot of excitement in the community to see the buses on the road. I've just driven by a bunch of them and they're getting a ton of waves. The community's happy.
One community member and longtime transit user in the Cowichan Valley, Amanda Bright, lives with her granddaughter and says they were both deeply impacted by the strike.
I'm on a very limited income, and how it impacts us is we can't get up to Walmart to do any of our shopping.
She feels the one voice that wasn't heard during the whole labor dispute was the users, and she's trying to change that by starting a petition to try and form the Cowichan Transit Riders Union.
I'm trying to form a group where passengers could tell their share of what they don't like, what they would like to see happen in the Cowichan Valley with transit.
Mediator Vince Reddy has not released his recommendations yet. But if April had her say,
that we don't have another transit strike that goes on this long ever again.
And as for the sign she used to get where she needed to be for all these months,
I have them in a Ziploc bag. I'm probably going to keep them as mementos. Maybe frame them one day.
Andy Garland, CTV News, the Cowichan Valley.
One of Canada's only operational submarines is back at CFB Esquimalt following a 2-month deployment in the Northern Pacific. HMCS Corner Brook is back in the Salish Sea after taking part in the Royal Canadian Navy's Operation Latitude. The mission took crews on the Corner Brook towards the Arctic in an effort to increase domain awareness throughout the area. The work up north comes as Canada looks to enhance military collaboration with the United States.
As a force, it's allowed us to demonstrate to the rest of the Navy, the Canadian Armed Forces, but also to our ally, the United States, what we're capable of bringing to these operations and showcasing the government's commitment to continental defense. We've been standing by, we've been ready for this mission for some time, and now we're able to execute it, and we are a meaningful, useful, I say essential partner in continental defense, the defense of America.
The completion of Operation Latitude marks the first deployment of a Canadian submarine since 2018. One of Greater Victoria's longest-running charities says demand for its services is through the roof as families in the CRD continue to struggle with the rising cost of living. CFAX Santa's Anonymous says it reached capacity for its holiday hampers in the first 7 hours of sign-up on Friday, saying more than 1,200 families reached out for help. The charity says the record-breaking registration points to a concerning trend within the affordability crisis as a growing number of families seek out support for the holiday season.
1,200 Christmas hampers with 3 bags of food for each family takes an enormous amount of space. And so it's space capacity more than it is in helping. And so members of the Christmas Giving Network, we are able to help other agencies with gifts and financially, and so that is what we will pivot and do, is support the other members of the Christmas Giving Network.
A list of island agencies still accepting hamper applications can be found online at cfaxsantas.com. Hundreds of kilometers have been cycled, dozens of schools visited, and now one big check given to the Canadian Cancer Society as the Cops for Cancer Tour de Rock is officially over. The charity ride wrapped up on Friday, raising more than $820,000 for pediatric cancer research and support services. Much of the money raised comes from local schools and businesses on Vancouver Island. This concludes 7 months of training, which got the team in shape to ride down and across the island from Port Alice to Ucluelet to Victoria. Still to come, continental camaraderie.
It is dangerous, the rhetoric he's engaged in, and his practices are making things cost more.
Prime Minister Carney directs his focus to D.C. ahead of a tariff-targeted meeting with his American counterparts.
It was another warm day today. We got to 19 on Sunday, 18 for the high today. We're currently at 17 degrees under partly cloudy skies. Should hang on to this above average temperature trend right through most of this week. Forecasts next.
CTV weather brought to you by Expedia Cruises. Make the most of your next trip by booking with those who've been there. Visit expediacruises.ca.
Hey, West Shore Youth, looking for a fun spot to hang out? Youth nights are here. Skating, art, swims, and a place to chill. Staff-led and supervised for a safe, inclusive vibe. Check out wspr.ca for more info.
Welcome back. Josh is here with weather. Josh, just a stunning start to October. The big question is, are we going to keep this up?
Yeah, for at least a few more days, it looks like it. I mean, October is more like on par with where we should have been about 2 weeks ago as far as temperatures. We're, as we said, up to 19 yesterday, 18 today, 17 in Victoria right now, way above average. 21 in Port Alberni. Port Hardy is sitting at 13 degrees currently, and you can see the reason we're so nice and warm. Look at the cloud cover arching to the north. You have this upper ridge that's been sitting over top of us, and that's going to stick around at least for the next 12 to 24 hours. I do think it breaks down a little bit in the north through the course of the day tomorrow. You get a chance of some showers there in through northern parts of the island Tuesday morning. A little bit of increased cloud cover there midday, and then that blasts out. We get back to some sunshine tomorrow afternoon in Victoria. There are parts of the island on Wednesday that could see a few scattered showers, but really not much of a significant cool down. There's your morning showers in the north. Again, you're up to about 13 degrees, so similar to today and just slightly cooler than average, 13 and 14 for highs Wednesday, Thursday. It does look sunnier for Thursday, Friday with showers returning on Saturday. In fact, most of the island has a chance of showers on Saturday. Inland areas up to 18 or 19 for a high tomorrow, so maybe a degree cooler than today. Mixed sun and cloud. Chance of a late day shower, sort of late afternoon or early evening on Wednesday, if at all. That extra cloud cover and that chance of shower knocks your forecast high to 15, but back close to 20 there for Thursday and Friday. Mid-teens for Tuesday, Wednesday. Slight chance of a spotty shower on parts of the west coast. I think most areas should be just looking at a mix of sun and cloud, though, through the day Wednesday. Thursday, Friday look dry. Comox, mixed sun and cloud, high of 16 tomorrow. Back to average with a high of 13 or 14 on Wednesday with a 30% chance of showers. It's not going to be heavy rain, but there may be a couple scattered showers in the area. Sunnier for Thursday, Friday with highs of 17. And in Nanaimo, looking at 17 degrees for tomorrow, so 3 degrees warmer than average. Again, a mix of sun and cloud in Nanaimo tomorrow, and then Wednesday, late afternoon or early evening. Slight risk of a scattered shower. If those showers don't develop, I've got 15 in the forecast for Wednesday. Could be 16 or 17 again, probably in that 17, 18 degree range for Thursday and Friday. In Victoria, 18 degrees today, should be around 18 degrees tomorrow with a mix of sun and cloud. Again, a little more cloud cover around lunchtime, sunnier later in the day, and we'll start the day with a few fog patches, but those will burn off pretty quickly. 16 or 17 for a high Wednesday, 18 or 19 Thursday, and even as we head into the weekend, still warm Friday, and even this 14 with a chance of scattered showers Saturday is no worse than about average. So for most of the next 4 or 5 days and the rest of this week, temperatures warmer than the seasonal norms. CTV weather is brought to you by Expedia Cruises for air, land, and sea vacations. Not super hot, Kevin, but nice and mild for early October.
Yeah, very good for early October. Josh, thanks so much. Prime Minister Mark Carney is off to Washington again for another high-stakes meeting with U.S. President Trump. While the Carney government is trying to temper expectations, there is pressure on the Prime Minister to find some tariff relief for hard-hit sectors like steel and aluminum. CTV's senior political correspondent Mike Lecouture reports.
Canadian officials are cautiously optimistic that tomorrow's meeting could pave the way for some relief on steel tariffs. And politicians from both sides of the border are hoping for the same.
I'll be very blunt. You never know what comes out of a meeting with President Trump.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is hoping for some tariff relief, but says the U.S. president will say one thing one day and then change course the next. At a gathering of governors and premiers from around the Great Lakes, Pennsylvania's Josh Shapiro said tariffs are hurting the U.S.
We're still seeing prices go way up because the president decided to push the tariff button and drive up costs on the American people. It is dangerous, the rhetoric he's engaged in, and his practices are making things cost more.
U.S. tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum remain at 50%, while Trump is increasing levies on other products like softwood lumber and wood furniture. One former special advisor on Canada-U.S. relations for then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau believes Tuesday's meeting could yield some progress.
Either because you hope that you're close to an agreement and you would like to push it over the finish line with a signature moment and a handshake and an opportunity, or to push forward on something that's stalled or slowed.
Expectations are high from opposition leader Pierre Poilievre. In a letter to the Prime Minister, the Conservative leader demanded Carney keep his campaign promise to negotiate a win, including the removal of all tariffs on Canadian goods. A White House spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, says trade will be one of the many issues discussed between Carney and Trump when they meet in the Oval Office. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
October is National Bullying Prevention Month in Canada, and a new report suggests the problem is something a large majority of children are having to deal with. The report from Children First Canada says 71% of Canadian youth between the ages of 12 and 17 have experienced bullying in the past year. In BC, more than half of teens reported being teased, feeling excluded, or physically bullied. One expert says the nature of bullying has changed over the years and not for the better.
Sometimes it's public, online, and sometimes it's in kids' private messages. They're DMing, and they don't have to face who they're hurting. So in lots of ways, it's easier to be a bully today.
She says communicating with your child is key, as well as keeping an eye out for subtle signs they could be struggling. That includes mood changes, a hesitance to go to school, or losing interest in activities they usually enjoy. If you like to start your morning with Tim Hortons, get ready to shell out a little bit more. The coffee chain says it's raising coffee prices for the first time in 3 years. The cost is going up 1.5% per cup. According to Tim Hortons, the price of its coffee beans has more than doubled, contributing to the price hike. Coming up, breaking news. Adam finds out the story behind a proposal caught on camera seconds before a live news broadcast. Next on the Sawatsky Sign-Off.
Win a fall cleanup with 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Text JUNK to 71010 with your first name for your chance to win. Clean up your home or maybe your neighborhood with 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Details at ctvnewsvi.ca.
And finally, Adam finds out what happened after a CTV News team preparing to broadcast live spotted a man preparing to propose to his girlfriend on the Sawatsky Sign-Off.
They were seconds away from broadcasting live.
Yeah.
Rob in front of the camera, Orlando behind.
What's that?
When reporting on the first story in the newscast,
Kevin, striking public service workers
led to happening upon this last one.
But we have an engagement going on in front of me.
But Ella Van Enter didn't know that yet. She just thought she was visiting Victoria to show her boyfriend, Alex Benton, the BC Parliament buildings, one of her favorite places growing up.
And all of my best memories are here.
And over the past 2 years they've been dating, all Alex's best memories are with Ella. So he enlisted her sister and aunt to help with a surprise proposal here.
When she met him, it was like instant. He hasn't even ever seen her disability.
Ella has cerebral palsy. And while Alex fell in love with her sitting in a wheelchair, he recalled her saying she'd never want to get engaged in one. So he secretly arranged for Ella to be able to sit in a clear chair for his proposal, framed by flowers.
took me completely by surprise. I was not expecting this at all.
Well, Rob and Orlando weren't expecting it either.
Orlando, 10 seconds to everybody.
But they do know a thing or two about covering breaking news.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
So they juggled between broadcasting opposing political sides saying no.
What's that?
And capturing an exuberant Ella saying yes.
She said yes.
The whole thing is so surreal. Like, I actually can't even believe this is happening right now.
I feel amazing. Yeah, I'm so happy that she's happy and that she was surprised. That was a big goal of mine.
While the goal of journalists is to ask the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, the most important part of this story is how these fiancés answered why.
I mean, I love you. That's pretty much all that needs to be said, I think.
Congrats.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Victoria.
Oh, that is fantastic. And that is it for CTV News Vancouver Island. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your nights.